Honestly guys, Call of Duty Vanguard is a decent Call of Duty online experience. It's got fast-paced shooting and some nice gunplay, but that's about it. What I'm really here to talk about is how Call of Duty Vanguard is one of the most shallow World War II experiences ever. But you wouldn't think so right off the bat. So let's see why that is, and look at the campaign first.
Stand by! See you on the ground!
Vanguard's campaign is actually quite fun. We assume the role of 4 different characters from different parts of the world, and from there get to experience some of the various theaters of the war. Now in theory, I think this is a really good way of showcasing how massive this war really was. That the same war actually played out in Western Europe, Eastern Europe, North Africa, and the Pacific. I even think Vanguard does an especially good job at times in making the experience cinematic. Especially Polina Petrova's episode in Stalingrad is fantastic, as we get to see the city before, during, and after the German invasion. I also think it was incredible to join the Air Forces as Wade Jackson and link up with other fighters over the Pacific. These scenes are proof in themselves that Sledgehammer games and the Call of Duty games really have the potential to do something great, and to create immersive and large experiences that fit this massive war. Of course though, and disappointingly, the Call of Duty formula itself really stops this from being a modern epic. The entire story lasts for about 7 hours, and around an hour of this playtime is made up of cutscenes. I guess the Shire went fashy, huh? Huh, Mary?
The Fuhrer had nothing but praise for him.
And when everything is said and done, I doubt Vanguard's campaign will be as well remembered as the one from World at War, a campaign which offered a much more focused 2-part story, focusing on the Eastern and the Pacific theaters exclusively. The Eastern Front campaign was especially vicious, but also had some incredibly memorable moments, with the ending putting you in the shoes of the Soviet soldier who raised the flag over the German parliament.
Things will change, my friend. As heroes, we will return to Russia's embrace.
And this brings us back to Vanguard, because even though it manages to give us some semblance of the war in the campaign, the multiplayer is where I'm thoroughly confused. Vanguard seems to have entirely forgotten that it's a game taking place during the Second World War. And before I go on, I just need you to know a few things. I think Call of Duty Vanguard's online gameplay is fun and fast. I think it's snappy, I think it's a step up from last year's Cold War, and I think it's a good overall Call of Duty multiplayer. Okay, you're good? Awesome. Now, where Vanguard falls flat is in its ability to make you feel like you're partaking in the war. The most obvious example of this is the embarrassing fact that you're no longer playing for or against democracies, communists or fascists. Instead, it's my team versus enemy team. Not Soviets versus Germans, not Americans versus Japanese. No, my team versus enemy team. This is the clearest way Vanguard removes the historical from its multiplayer and completely trivializes the war. On top of that, I want you to check out something. This is what your team looks like in Vanguard. No uniforms, not even varieties of uniforms with some unique attires, no, just seemingly completely random agents that look like they have nothing to do on an actual battlefield. You can unlock skins that make it resemble actual uniforms, but you're never going to have a historical looking team unless you're in a highly dedicated friend group. The only, and I mean the only thing that makes this multiplayer mode resemble anything World War II are the weapons and in part the maps. Obviously the weapons are all here, and again, they feel good. But let's talk about the maps. Some Call of Duty maps remain in your mind for years and years afterwards. Just think of Overgrown, Terminal, or one of my personal favorites, Downfall. And Downfall specifically really gave me that World War II feeling that is so essential to these types of games. Because you want to feel like you're in the Second World War while playing a Second World War era game. Insane, huh? And look, I'm not saying Vanguard has horrible maps. Some of them are even quite interesting. What I'm saying though is that none of these maps make me feel like I'm playing as a soldier in the war. Instead of Downfall and the dark ruins of Berlin ever present, we now have just Berlin, and just a random collection of factory buildings and some tanks here and there. We have an insanely boring Das Haus map where you'll get shot from every angle all the time, and other maps that just seem uninspired. Even the maps I enjoy, like Castle and Tuscan, never gave me that sense of war. And I think this is where we get to the meat of this video. Because I think Call of Duty, rather than being a game about World War II, is a game that uses World War II as a sales trick to sell you just more Call of Duty, but with the same gameplay as before. I call this historical appropriation, the combined phenomenon of taking advantage of the appeal of the historical era, but the failure of actually showcasing it in any new and meaningful way. And before you say, but Andy, Call of Duty will always be just more Call of Duty. Every game does this, what did you expect? And well, I don't think that's correct. Take a look at the Battlefield series. Even though Battlefield 1 took some creative liberties, it really managed to depict and maintain that sense of war, that large-scale conflict via the use of exceptional map design, character models and uniforms, and yes, historical nations fighting each other in historical campaigns known as grand operations. Moving to Battlefield 5, which takes us forward to World War II, it did the same, especially and the very best with the Pacific update, which gave us amazing large-scale battles between actual historical nations. The Battlefield gunplay changes little by little between these games, but despite keeping most of the gunplay and mechanics intact, Battlefield managed to create war zones and online battles that it felt like actual historical fights. Call of Duty Vanguard never manages that, not once. And the reason for this is either because it doesn't want to, because it can't, or indeed both. And here's another reason. Call of Duty maps are small. Even the game's biggest maps are small, at least compared to Battlefield's. And before you write in the comments how I just want Call of Duty to become Battlefield, no, that's not it. But this is it. Modern Call of Duty maps are inherently not meant to make you feel like you're partaking in a classic war. They might be turned into that though, by putting you into maps that are meant to look and feel like war zones. And Downfall was one of those maps. But a fight over a small town or something similar only becomes a war zone if they're put into larger contexts. That's why Battlefield's breakthrough mode is so genius, because it splits up the larger maps into smaller zones, but allows you to play all of them in rapid succession. In this way, the small becomes part of something much larger. And of course, when we lack just basic visual necessities like uniforms and team faction names, the sense of World War II has completely vanished. This is what I'm talking about when I mention historical appropriation. There is nothing in this multiplayer, other than the static maps and weapons, to actively suggest that this takes place during World War II. Call of Duty Vanguard takes advantage of my willingness to play a game because it allegedly will offer a World War II experience, but proceeds to sell me a modern warfare game, but with a World War II skin. A 1940s overlay perhaps, yet one that manages to completely forget that very specific nations and alliances fought other very specific and deliberate nations and alliances in very specific and deliberate locations. This is not Fortnite. World War II is not Fortnite, where the gameplay and everything else can stay the same, while only the skin changes. If you're looking for a genuine World War II experience, then Vanguard provides a semblance of something great in its campaign. But the multiplayer is what you're buying Call of Duty for, of course, and does essentially nothing to create a believable World War II experience. And even though I never expected the world, I did hope for something like what we got in World at War. But Vanguard could not be further from that. And I think it goes to show that Call of Duty doesn't bother with immersive experiences or a genuine willingness or desire to create something unique, to actually show history for what it really was, or at least something close to it. And that, I think, is not only disappointing, but honestly disrespectful to the worst and the greatest war ever fought by humankind. Thank you so much for watching. If you have a different opinion about how Vanguard takes on World War II than me, then let me know in the comments. If you enjoyed the video, I hope you leave a like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Cheers.